This is Tell Me Exactly, and I'm your host, Meredith Jensen. Joining me today is Ross Rutschman. Say hi, Ross, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Meredith. Good to be here, thank you. So, I've been with Priority Dispatch, well, since before Priority Dispatch, since about 1987 is when I first met Dr. Clausen, and he had some courses out in Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just kind of got involved with him, doing courses. And then I think Priority Dispatch or Medical Priority Consultants came in 1988 or 89.
Mm-hmm.
And so I continued to instruct back then.
Okay.
And I think the academy was formed in 89. And so I've been an instructor and involved with Priority Dispatch for a few years.
Many years, yeah.
Yeah.
And what's your role with Priority Dispatch today? What brought you here to talk to me?
Well, right now, my current title is Senior International Project Manager with Priority Dispatch, but that encompasses a lot of things, not just involving implementations, but also customer service, doing instructor academies, cultural committees, instructor recertification workshops, some, I wouldn't say sales, but demos and, things, activities such as that.
Yeah, so you're really at the heart of making sure that some of our international clients get everything that they need from point A to point B, whether they are newly implementing or they've been using us for many, many years, just to kind of keep them on track in using our systems in the best way possible.
Right. Every region has different needs at different times.
Right. So today we're telling our listeners exactly how international implementations are kind of unique and how our international clients use our systems in unique and interesting ways. So I want to ask you a question because I already know the answer, but I think our listeners are going to find this fascinating.
You're not going to ask my age.
Not your age, I promise. We'll keep that off the table.
Okay.
But I know that a fun fact about you, Ross, is that you have a very unique member number. So when we're talking about member numbers, of course, all of our members that get certified as EMDs, EFDs, and EPDs, dispatchers, have a member number with the International Academies of Emergency Dispatch. What's your member number? Mine's like a 6-digit number. I don't even know it, but you have yours memorized. What is it?
3.
So for anybody
Just
listening,
3.
that
Just 3.
tells you how much wealth of knowledge and experience Ross Rutschman has in the industry. So let's get into it. Let's talk about what are some of your favorite clients to go and visit, because the things that you do with them are really just in line with doing great things.
Okay. Well, let me start a different way first.
Yeah, go.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Not to change the subject.
No, please.
Where I specifically cover is, I think, Asia,
Okay.
South America, which is just Brazil, or this is where I have,
Yeah.
Middle East,
Mm-hmm.
and parts of Europe.
Okay.
And I think that's mainly. So when we talk international, I don't do anything in the UK because the UK office does
Right.
that.
We have a
And
separate
they do,
group for that.
part of Europe.
And Australia.
And, Australia, and then Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, so you're mostly focused in Asia, South America, parts of Europe, right?
And Middle East.
And the Middle East, yeah. And
Right.
our other office does the UK and Australia and things like that. Okay, so Ross, tell me a little bit about where you're at in the world. What's going on with the agencies that you're working at in the world right now?
Okay, so right now we have approximately, I'll talk about China first, because I think internationally that's where we have probably the most agencies as far as customers, as far as one country. And in China we have approximately 92 MPDS users, of which 30-some of those are ACEs.
Wow, that's incredible. So
Yeah.
like a third of those agencies in China are ACE accredited.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And, so right now in China, we have 3 implementers that work for us that, obviously speak the language. And so they when we get an implementation or when we do customer visits there, the implementers typically will do that, and then I'll go over, as often as I can. I mean, it used to be we'd go over, every month, before COVID, and then we dropped off, and now we're trying to get back in there where we're going over maybe every 3 months, 4 months, and then we'll go visit some of the agencies with the implementers over there. Specifically right now, we have China Navigator coming up in October, so we're getting prepared for that. They're just getting ready to release version 14. So they're a couple of years, by the time we get we get it translated and all the material and stuff.
And the cultural committees.
Yeah, so we've been working on that for the last year, and then in October, we'll also have an instructor recertification workshop where we'll update their MPDS instructors so that they can then start rolling out version 14 soon after.
Good. So one of the things that you touched on that I want to kind of dive into a little bit deeper is these international clients where they are using our products, using ProQA and the protocols in another language. They oftentimes have to have what we call a cultural committee. So talk a little bit about what that cultural committee is all about and what their purpose and goal is.
Okay, yeah, we just completed in July of this year, we completed the cultural committee in Malaysia for fire and medical.
Okay.
And those committees, those meetings take about 3 days each, roughly.
Yeah.
And what we do specifically there is, once the protocol is released in North American English, and we get bugs worked out in there, and then it's then released in all these other languages.
Right.
In each language, we have a cultural committee, and what we're looking at is, did the priority dispatch translators or whoever's translating it, whether it's a contractor or employee, did they translate it in the context that it's meant to be?
Right, because that's a big challenge when you're talking about a language other than North American English, because many of our questions and instructions are so very specific. We have to make sure that we're using the right term in that other language.
Right, and if, I always, one of the examples I give to people is, if you think about it, if somebody's doing a literal translation, is that you think in English, how many ways can the word to be used?
Yeah, it's spelled 3 or 4 different ways. Right?
And so that's just one example. And so whenever a translator looks at something and they don't know the context, is that it could be worded differently. And sometimes, we just ran through this in Malaysia, where sometimes a single word they don't have.
Right.
So in Bahasa Malay, so they had to make a whole sentence to explain the concept of one word.
Right.
So sometimes the instructions will be longer. So when you look in English of a short instruction, and you look in another language and it's a long instruction, it might be because the context is not possible.
Yeah.
And so they have to write out what's meant. And I tell you, the tourniquet protocol was very tricky.
Sure.
Because the other thing is some of the slang words. You have in there, and I remember talking about turning the rod.
Yeah,
they didn't have. Tourniquet. They don't have a word rod.
Right.
And so they had to think of what can they put in that place? A stick or
something that would be equitable,
right?
So that we're using the right object and the right instruction. Yeah, that's tricky. Okay.
Yeah.
So that makes sense why these cultural committees then would sort of take the translation and really get the microscope out on it, right? To make sure that it makes sense. Do they ever do anything to test it with some callers to make sure that people understand in the context?
They probably do. I mean, I know they have after it's been translated.
Sure, that's what I'm saying.
And several places they've how when we changed the question about are they responding appropriately. We changed that from are they completely
alert?
Yeah. And some places, some cultures have went back to the completely alert because they don't understand the responding appropriately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then then we always have a problem, or a challenge, I should say, that is that in some cultures China has I don't know how many hundreds of dialects.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, but we just, that's, what the call takers have to do is reword it then.
Right.
Yeah. So
right, and that's really interesting because, I mean, you could probably even see the same thing in North American English, right? People with different accents and different sort of common terms that would be used in the local dialect, right? That would be understood only by people in that certain area. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And so in Arabic, we're just developing a new language. I should say developing. Well, we're translating a new language because some of the I don't want to say elderly because that makes me, but but some of the older people don't understand the
Newer terms.
the newer Arabic.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then the Arabic, we have one Arabic, but the Arabic in Bahrain is different, slightly different than Qatar or Kuwait or Saudi Arabia.
Right.
But we just do kind of a proper Arabic.
Right.
And
yeah, because that's how because you don't know when you're on the phone with a caller which sort of dialect they might be speaking unless it's really specific to a region. But you could end up with a caller that's speaking a different dialect. And so making it more general is probably safer, I would imagine.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so then let's talk about what makes these international clients, what makes the process of supporting them and implementing them unique from maybe their North American or U.S. counterparts?
Probably some of their issues or questions or problems are slightly different. Yeah. Because, in many of the places, they don't have the option of, let's talk about, medical. Mm-hmm. They don't have ALS or BLS.
Really? So what do they have instead?
Well, it depends. In China, they have doctors and nurses on the ambulance. Same in Brazil, they have a doctor and nurse on the ambulance.
Yeah.
In Italy, their ambulances are all BLS volunteers, and then the doctor and nurse will go out in a separate. They call it an automedic.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and so one of the things, when we're talking about prioritization, we have to kind of think of new ways that they can prioritize because, again, in many places, it's not an option not to send. It's not an option not to send red lights and sirens. It's not an option not to send a nurse or a doctor.
Right.
But yet they're all looking for some solutions because, like everywhere else, they're running out of resources.
I was just going to say, do they run out of ambulances like we see in the U.S.? Okay.
Yeah.
And so then what do they do when they are faced with that challenge?
They put the calls on hold, or they put them in a queue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I think I'm going to ask a question that, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think also in a lot of these countries, there's an extra challenge, and maybe it's not a challenge, but you can maybe speak to how we work around it, that it's not even the same phone number to reach medical versus fire and police, right?
Right, yeah. And
so how do you work around that? Like, how do you mitigate that in those countries?
Well, they've had their processes for years. Mm-hmm. So we try not to mess with that.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll offer some suggestions, without trying to come across as this is North American. But we'll try to offer some suggestions on maybe what they might consider doing.
Right.
But China, Brazil, they have 3 different numbers for police, fire, medical.
So it's just kind of up to the citizen, the caller, to remember that you have to call a different number.
Yeah.
What happens when there's overlap, when someone calls the wrong one?
Well, they'll usually tell them to hang up and call the other one.
There is
no transferring.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, it feels like that's a big challenge.
Yeah.
So they don't have a solution to transfer. They just tell them to call back. Okay.
As far as I know.
Yeah.
In Malaysia, they have one number. Yeah, 999. Europe is gradually moving to 112. Mm-hmm. And kind of interesting if you're in Europe, at least, if you call 911, it'll still go to 112.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's not all the countries that have quite figured, 112 is nothing more than a transfer service.
Right.
You'll dial 112 and they'll transfer you to...
Where do you want to go? Yeah.
Police, fire, medical.
Which is still good, right? Because you're still getting to where you need to go, but it's an extra step, right?
Right, but sometimes the calls don't necessarily, the caller thinks I need an ambulance, but it's because somebody was stabbed.
Right.
But it might go to the, EMS rather than to the police.
Yeah. So then how do they work that when there might be a call like that, a stabbing as an example, where they would need both medical and police?
Just from my experience, in Italy, they'll conference in or transfer the call, with the other agency.
Okay.
A lot of them, depending on if their CAD's the same.
Yeah.
Sometimes the 112 has a different CAD than the 118, which is the ambulance.
Yeah.
But we have been working a little bit with 112 in Italy to try. There's a couple of regions that have asked us to help them come up with maybe a call answering process where they can identify, for instance, echo level responses and get those transferred quicker. Mm-hmm. Because they have their whole process they're supposed to go through, which is collecting all the, information. Yeah. But they want to be able to transfer quicker.
Right. Okay.
And they want to be able to recognize what situations they should transfer.
Of course.
Quicker.
Yeah. So then I want to go back to, you said we have 90-some agencies in China, and 30-some of those, a third of those are ACE. What's the secret sauce that they are able to get that many agencies ACE accredited? That's fantastic.
First, our implementers are pretty good over there.
Yeah.
And
highly trained, a lot of experience.
Yeah, and
definitely
and they're nurses or doctors. Nurses or doctors. Mm-hmm. And when Ken and I started over there years ago, it was always ACE was the goal,
the ultimate goal, the finish line.
And we've never went away from that.
Yeah.
That's still our goal. Is for them to get in a lot of places over there. That's kind of a prestige thing for them.
Of course. Well, and it makes sense, right? Because not to minimize the process of ACE, but by achieving ACE, you're checking a lot of boxes of doing things in line with the best practices, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And when we ask somebody, does your agency provide the standard of care? Mm-hmm. And there's only two answers. If it's yes, then I want to see an agency, then will prove it to me, show me.
Yeah.
And really the only way to do that's with accreditation. If they say no, I want to know, well, why not?
Yeah.
Why aren't you providing the standard of care?
Yeah.
And usually, a lot of times you'll get that in-between answer. Well, we're kind of, it's a yes or a no.
You either are or you
aren't.
Not. Yeah.
Or you're trying to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. So a lot of agencies, they're kind of, if they're not actively involved in quality assurance, and oversight, they don't know the answer.
Yeah. So one thing I want to ask, because again, you've been doing this for a really long time. You are exceptional at what you do. You really are truly an expert in your field. What are some of the biggest lessons that you have learned over the years that you would share with our listeners? If they're listening and trying to figure out their way through something, what would be the biggest tips that you would share with them, or the biggest lessons that you've learned?
Be flexible.
Oh, I love that. Yes. Yeah. 100%. Why do you say that, Ross?
Because things frequently change.
Yes.
And they frequently change last minute, and not everywhere in the world is being on time considered
respectful. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Or non-respectful if they don't show up on time, right? Time has a different feeling in other places. I know what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. 8 might mean 8:30.
Sure.
And if you push the issue, you'll lose clients and you'll lose people, and you just kind of gotta go with that. And I think number 2 is to be really open-minded.
Oh, okay. I like that.
There's more than one way to. Just because we do something a certain way, or just because police agencies or fire agencies, our experience typically is wherever you worked or things like that in North America. Yeah. And not everybody does things that way.
And not everybody is going to be successful sort of putting that square peg into that round hole. Right.
Yeah. And they don't have necessarily the money or resources.
Yeah.
So really you have to, I think, be open-minded and think about you know, I have to believe that agencies, no matter where, do their best.
Of course.
And I think it's, my job to try to help them do their best.
Yeah.
And do whatever you can to do that. So being flexible, being open-minded, and thinking of, I think, how do you fit the square peg in the round hole? How can we help them? In Sao Paulo, Brazil, they're one of our bigger agencies.
Yeah.
And they typically have 100 to 150 calls in the queue.
Wow.
Ambulances.
Just waiting.
And some of those people, when we go look at the CAD screen, some of those they've been in the queue for 8 hours.
And are these ever critical patients? Like, do we have heart attacks in there, or
hopefully not?
Yeah, these are your twisted ankle, your.
But some of them,
acuity,
it's not unusual for Charlie levels or like
to creep in.
Right, and so their big concern was with strokes, and so we helped them with a solution to get the strokes higher up in the queue. But we can say that we helped them figure out a way to.
That's fantastic. So yeah, you definitely help them figure out how to use the system in its best capacity for the challenges that they had. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So some of our unique clients are the military bases.
Oh yeah, of course.
So I'm trying to remember. I think we have like around 7 or 8 military bases now that use MPDS.
Right.
From Japan to Bahrain, Italy, Spain, Greece. Yeah. And so
Poland? Did we bring
Poland,
them
Romania.
Yeah.
And so although they're not real busy, which kind of makes them unique, because they might do, in one case, 30 calls a year to 30 calls a month. And
so how do you help them? I mean, I'm going to guess you probably really recommend that they do a lot of practice to keep their skills sharp.
They use the college.
Good.
And a lot of practice. And we also then try to visit them twice a year, answer questions. We're always available for them to answer.
Yeah.
And then one of the things we're trying to help them do in a few places is integrate more, in Sigonella, on Sicily and Italy, we're trying to help that base integrate with the local 118 service, the EMS service, because they sometimes have to rely on them to transport.
Sure.
Yeah. And so whenever you have English-speaking patient or something going with an Italian-speaking ambulance or using those resources. So we're trying to facilitate, Amelia and I were trying to help facilitate that integration with the local authorities. Yeah.
Good.
And sometimes they don't have those relationships that, we have.
Okay. So your 2 biggest lessons learned is be flexible, be open-minded. How about a third?
A smile means the same place everywhere in the world.
Oh, I love that. A smile is translated everywhere in the world as the same thing. That's fantastic. Yeah. That is a really good point. Yeah. And I'm sure you've learned that maybe the hard way.
Yeah. And a lot of people appreciate that.
Yeah.
If you don't speak the language, which a lot, some of the countries we go to, in the hotels, they'll speak English. A lot of places they don't.
Yeah.
But I can point to a number on to order something and smile.
Right.
And they smile back.
That's right. A smile is definitely universally understood.
Exactly.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's a great takeaway. Great lesson. Anything else that you really want our listeners to know about the international landscape with?
No. Well, I was going to. There's something that comes to mind. Is when we're talking about some of the differences, so like in Malaysia. So Malaysia, they use MPDS, FPDS for the whole country.
Yeah.
And they have different systems. Their calls go into the 999 center, and then if it's police, they get transferred to police. Fire, they keep in the 999 center, use ProQA. And EMD right now goes to one of 21 hospitals, but they'll eventually are bringing that back into the 999 center. One of the interesting things, though, when we look at fire, is in North America, if you look at what fire alarms account for, if you look at statistical-wise, fire alarms account for 70, 80%, of calls in some cases.
Yeah.
Over in most of those other countries, and I think of Malaysia particularly because they have about 60-some thousand fire calls per year, they might have 100 fire alarms. So it's like 0.0 zero,
Yeah.
whatever percent that is.
What a strange difference in the dynamics there. Yeah.
And it's because they don't have, so the commercialization, they don't have their hotels and buildings connected to a private
Automatic
alarm
yeah.
company. If the fire alarm goes off in the hotel, the security goes and checks it out, and
Takes care of it.
if something's on fire, they call you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was always, when I was looking at their statistics first time, I'm like, this has got to be wrong.
Yeah, and I've traveled to some of these countries that you're working with too, and one of the things that I experienced that I also thought was kind of fascinating and unique is the types of things that people call for an ambulance are sometimes quite different. In the U.S., we call for anything and everything. Is that true in other countries? It's not, is it?
No. And it depends on the countries.
Yeah.
But it's got to be, in China, you can have a city of 10 million, and they might have 6 call takers and dispatchers.
Wow. Because they just really don't, the citizens there don't really use the emergency services.
It's not part of the
much.
culture.
Yeah, it's not part of
Somebody's
that
got to be really, really sick.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they put them in the car and might take them to the hospital themselves.
Yeah. So that's one thing that I always found fascinating too,
Right.
is that we, it's very unique. It's almost quite opposite, right? I
Right.
mean,
People don't call for sprained ankles.
Right.
They don't call for, things like that.
Yeah. Talk to me a little bit about how your job shifted and how you overcame some of the challenges during COVID. Because international travel just came to a screeching halt.
It did.
So, were those agencies really open to doing things remotely? Did you have to bring them on board?
No.
How did that work?
I think because everybody it was a pandemic, so everybody was in the same situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even in China, the implementers couldn't travel,
Yeah.
and so no, everybody was pretty open to doing remote courses. We did some remote implementations, and it was different because instead of being there on site, now you're up at 11 at night working till 5 in the morning.
Sure.
Doing stuff remotely
For that time difference. Yeah.
But I think everybody, like I said, was in the same boat, and people responded appropriately.
Yeah. I can remember you before COVID being in some meetings with some Chinese clients using Zoom. And that's before I even knew what Zoom was. And then, of course, the whole world learned about Zoom as soon as COVID hit. But I that's really a core memory for me that sticks, that they were ahead of the game with Zoom.
Right.
Yeah, you'd already been a pro at Zoom.
Yeah.
You were one step ahead of the rest of us.
Oh, I think I thought of a fourth thing.
Okay, go ahead. What's the fourth lesson that you've learned all these years?
Google Translate isn't always right.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I
remember those,
feel like there's a story here.
Oh, no,
that I
remember
can't
those,
wait.
the two. How many ways can you say two? Google Translate doesn't always know the context.
Right.
And so if you're sending an email or something, it might not.
It might fall in a different direction
Right.
that you didn't expect.
Yeah. Or either that or some people know exactly. No, this wasn't translated by somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's next on the horizon for you, Ross? What are you working on that you're most excited about coming up?
Working on some business in Portugal, Spain.
All right.
Yeah.
And are they going to be newly implementing, or
we're just
supporting them?
We have somebody in Portugal that we're going to meet with, and we're trying to get an audience with the Ministry of Health. I think we have one to present the priority dispatch system.
Right.
Yeah.
So I find that really interesting too, because I think it's probably quite unique how we have to approach trying to bring our products and services across to these other areas and these other international regions. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of exciting to be able to do that.
Yeah. What's your favorite place that you've ever traveled to? I love this because people always ask me this question, and I have a really hard time answering it because I always find something really special that I enjoy in every place that I've traveled.
Yeah.
But do you have a favorite?
Not really.
Okay.
If a favorite area would probably be Asia,
Okay.
just in general.
Sure.
but I enjoy everywhere I go.
Yeah. And for our listeners, we don't want to play favorites with any of our user countries, but
Right.
of course we enjoy everybody.
Yeah. And all the users are
Fantastic.
Are fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
You know, the one place we have an ace in Pakistan, you know, but we haven't been able to go visit them ever. Everything has been done always remote and things like that. But that would be kind of fun to go visit them someday.
Yeah, it would be great.
Yeah, they come to our Middle East they come visit us when we're in the Middle East in other countries like Dubai or places like that. But you know, we can't go to the country.
Can't get to them.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for your time today, Ross. I always learn something every time I talk to you, and I really enjoy that. And for our listeners, your takeaway, a smile is universal in all languages. I love that. I don't think I could say it any better. Thanks for coming. We'll have you back again.
Okay.
Take care and safe travels, Ross.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, give us a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to let us know what you liked and subscribe and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Look for @TellMeExactly to get the latest on all things emergency communications. Tell Me Exactly is a Priority Dispatch Corporation podcast developed by our team of protocol experts and hosted by me, Meredith Jensen, with Cody Ekman as producer, Reading Roberts as sound engineer, Scott Robinson and Jason Barber as executive producers.